Welcome back to another episode of We Don't Know What to Watch, the podcast where two guys watch a random movie, all thanks to the holy algorithm, and talk about it online because, the one thing that the world needs is more white guys with podcasts. And with me, as always, is the amazing, the incredible, the Anthony Michael Hall, to my Anthony Edwards, Kyle Mulford, and I'm Noah Saturn. How you doing, Kyle?
Hi, yeah, today's episode is brought to you by the Tri-Lambs because we are the nerds of movie podcasting.
All right, Kyle.
Lambda.
What are we watching? I mean, if I could join a fraternity or a sorority, I'd want to join the Delta News because that's from Legally Blonde.
We watched the 1984 classic Revenge of the Nerds.
Let's just get this out straight of the way. This movie has aged about as well as like a pack-a-day smoker for 30 years. So, hoof, or like a meth user. Yeah.
Well, let's get a brief synopsis out of the way. Then we'll get into this movie. We've got a couple of nerds played by Robert Carradine and Anthony Edwards, Lewis and Gilbert. You'll know Anthony Edwards, of course, as Goose from Top Gun. But they're going to college.
And a million other things.
They're going to college and they want to join a fraternity, and no fraternity will have them. So they send out their applications to a bunch of fraternities, and they're a bunch of nerds that buy a house because they're displaced.
Nerds, losers, misfits. They work together, buy a house.
Yeah, they're
because of the jocks.
The jocks burn down their own house and then kick all these nerds out of the dorm. So they have to find a house.
Coach John Goodman.
Yes, Coach Harris, John Goodman. But then they're put in the gym, and so they go out searching for a house, and they find one, and then they're trying to get into a fraternity of their own. No one will take them because they keep sending a picture with everyone with every application. They're like, "Oh, there's one that we didn't send a picture," and then you hear in the background, "Hey, we got a letter from one of these that we get an interview." They're like, "Which one didn't we send a picture to? Lambda. Is it Lambda? Yeah." So then they find out that they go in. It's like an all black fraternity. So,
oh dear.
With the head of the fraternity being Bernie Casey, playing UN Jefferson. You might know him from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So anyway, they're on a trial basis with Lambda, and then the other big,
and then it becomes a prank war with the jocks and the nerds
with the jock fraternity because they want, and then there's a big contest at the end because whoever wins this carnival contest can choose who the president of the whole fraternity, the Greek association, is, who makes decisions. So, and then, so that's the basic gist of the movie. Can we get into like some of the cast first here?
So
directed by Jeff Canoe.
Yeah.
The only really other thing of note is he directed Ordinary People, which I actually found to be a pretty good movie about grief of losing.
Yeah, that's an interesting dichotomy there.
Yeah, that really was. Timothy Busfield, he's in a lot of things, but you might know him from Field of Dreams. He played Poindexter. I liked that character. Curtis Armstrong played Booger. He's in a ton of stuff. I like him. One Crazy Summer. He's the principal of the school in New Girl, the TV show. His is interesting because looking at the trivia, it says he recalls telling fellow actor Bronson Pinchot, I always forget how to pronounce his name, that if he was offered the role of Booger, they could just fucking forget it. I'm not picking my nose on camera for anyone. Ironically, as much as this movie has not aged well, Booger is an iconic character. Like, that's Curtis Armstrong. I'm sorry, he's Booger. That's what I've always known him for as his entire career. Anytime I see him in something else, I'm going, "Hey, it's a Booger." But then we've got Brian Tachi playing Takashi, the stereotypical Japanese character. He was also in Police Academy 3 and 4.
Man, that was rough.
And he played the voice of Leonardo in the 3 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies from the 90s.
Nice.
We have Ted McGinley as the main leader of the bad group, or the jock group, playing Stan Gable, and Ted McGinley I'll always know as Jefferson Darcy, the neighbor on Married with Children.
True. For a while, he was
Then
quote unquote the sitcom killer.
and one of his cohorts in that frat is Matt Salinger, who in the 1990 film played Steve Rogers / Captain America.
Nice.
Then we have Donald Gibb playing Ogre, which is one of my favorite characters, and he I'll always know him also as the sidekick of Jean-Claude Van Damme from Bloodsport.
Nice.
And of course, you mentioned John Goodman, who's great at everything, including this, because he's John Goodman.
Mm-hmm.
And one that I completely forgot was in this was James Cromwell. And, I like James Cromwell. He's in a lot of stuff, and he's one of only 4 characters that is actually in all 4 of the Revenge of the Nerds movies.
Oh man, there's 4 of these?
Yes, there were 3 and 4 were made for TV movies. You have Revenge of the Nerds 2, Nerds in Paradise, Revenge of the Nerds 3, The Next Generation or something like that. That was the first TV movie, and then Revenge of the Nerds 4, Nerds in Love. So that's
had a bigger impact than I thought.
Well, yeah, and then the composer was Thomas Newman. He's been the composer on movies like Wall-E, Skyfall, 1917, Green Mile, American Beauty, The Lost Boys. So, well-known composer too, Thomas Newman.
This movie has lots of issues, and we're just going to talk about them. One, for the guy who plays Takashi, just, it's gross. Because, he's says some words wrong. The people are like, what is this? What is that? And, he doesn't know how to play poker, so they're taking advantage of him. He's always trying to be, really nice, kind of deferential. Just, it's stereotypes all the way.
It is the 80s Japanese character that's in all the movies. It's the Long Duck Dong of Pretty in Pink. They were really terrible with Asian stereotypes in the 80s. Awful.
Mm-hmm.
And the other stereotypes in this movie were it's just Overboard is also the guy who played Lamar, who was the black gay man. And I actually I like the character himself, but the the overly flamboyant portrayal was just overboard.
Yeah, he's the gay best friend in a rom-com.
Well, and the thing is I was reading that he only really took roles after this. He overcompensated with really masculine roles because everyone thought he was actually really gay in real life. And so he would just take all these masculine roles afterwards.
Nice.
But so the stereotypes are really, clear. Even the nerd stereotype of the pocket protectors and the big glasses and all that stuff. So that's one of the big flaws of this movie that doesn't age well is all the stereotypes in it.
You know what else doesn't age well?
Rape.
I was going to say, assault and, surveillance, using someone's naked pictures of themselves without their consent or knowledge.
Yeah.
Ooh,
the misogyny in this film is
a lot.
It is. It's, it is. And most of the actors now, I think, have gone on to do interviews saying that they regret, especially the sex by deception rape scene. They all regret having done it that way. And I know there's a lot of other things to regret, but that is the one big one in this movie shouldn't have even been. About what's that?
That people still talk about and how it's played for laughs. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is that shows how bad our society is, because as a kid, I didn't realize how bad that was. So I watched this movie. I loved this movie growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched this movie going, yeah, the nerds won and our hero got the girl. And now you watch it, you go, oh, whoa. He got the girl. How?
Yeah.
So because there's one scene where need to get my notes out here because I've got a few notes on this one too. There's one scene at the end where the main girl, Betty Childs, she dumps her jock boyfriend and says, "I'm in love with a nerd." And I'm going, "You're in love with him because he went down on you without your consent?" I'm like, so
Yeah,
basically
that's not great.
he deceived his way into showing her that sex with him could be good. And then she's like, "Oh yeah, it was. I'm in love with you now."
Yeah, that's disturbing.
Yeah, so it's really unfortunate that we had movies like that had these kind of problems back then, which shows that like things didn't get better since the, early days of film, because women
Hmm.
are still portrayed and not in all movies, but like if you look at a lot of 80s comedies, it really is about like the guys trying to get the girls. It doesn't matter how they get them. It's
Almost like she's almost like more of, the term is like a sexy lamp. If you would have replaced her with a sexy lamp, nothing would have changed.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
More of an
So
object, or almost like a medal or a trophy than a real human being.
yeah, because then let's talk about the other really problematic scene. Is one of the pranks is the nerds get pranked by the jocks, where the jocks actually bring in pigs and let them run through their house, and then they moon them. I was like, that's actually a
Hmm.
fun prank. But then they get back at the jocks by going to the girlfriend's sorority and doing a panty raid, which is bad enough,
and install
it's
and
but it's
installing like surveillance cameras so they can watch them without their knowledge in the
yeah,
bathroom, and then like,
the panty raid is bad enough, and they're just being silly and grabbing underwear out of a drawer. But yeah, to install cameras in like the shower rooms and the bathrooms, and then sit and watch them all night long is is highly problematic.
oh yes.
So like that scene and then the rape scene at the end really should be cut out of this, just chopped right out. Because after going through all of the bad stuff in this movie, there are some things I still like about this movie. There are some scenes. The scenes that I remember are all the scenes that are not bad ones, which is good. Maybe that means subconsciously as a kid I remembered the right things.
Hmm.
Because I remembered the pig prank with them mooning the nerds at the house. And I always thought that was funny.
They
The
did have "Burning Down the House" by Talking Heads on the soundtrack, so
Yeah,
there's
I
that,
when when they actually
which is a
literally
very
burned
literal use of it.
when they literally burned down the house, I was watching that scene again, going, "My God, how much alcohol do they waste?" Because they do like a stair diving where they jump into a pool of beer and it just splashes everywhere. Everyone's drinking beer, just slopping it everywhere. I'm like, when I was in college, you didn't waste alcohol like
They're
that.
rich kids, they can afford. They got rich parents to afford it.
That's true. And then I like they burned down their house because one guy's like blowing fire with alcohol and catches the drapes on fire. And then they cut to the whole house is burnt down and and they're roasting marshmallows. That scene was ad libbed.
Nice.
That was one thing I read about this is like the story and the script were so sparse that like half of this movie was ad libbed.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I like that kind of prank, the pigs and mooning, and then whatever. But oh, and the liquid heat and the jocks, that was fun. Where the coach is giving a big speech
Hmm.
and they're all sitting there just like slowly their their nether regions are starting to burn. They all and this was another ad lib line which I actually loved watching this is when they all run into the locker room. He's like, "Shit, we forgot to practice." And I think that was ad libbed by John Goodman, which makes it even
Nice.
better. And then the other part that I really enjoyed was most of the carnival, minus the pie eating scene and the already aforementioned sexual assault. I liked all the tricycle beer race where they like the nerds come up with like here, take this because it'll counteract the alcohol and you won't get drunk. So then Takashi is able to win the drunk tricycle race because he won't get
Hmm.
drunk off the beer. That was kind of a fun scene. The Trojan horse where like the big jocks are like they get on a riding bull and then the other teams like shake the ropes for it. So like the nerds fall off, but then Ogre gets on and he's like 700 pounds. So like they can't even move
He
the
just sits
ropes.
there.
He just sits there still. The tug of war where the nerds come up and just grab the rope and they go 3, 2, 1, just let go of the rope. You win.
Yeah, it's so great.
There's so many like funny scenes. Like I liked a lot of these. The belching contest was great because you think Ogre's going to win this one, and then Booger comes up and what I read was it was the audio for that was a mix between a different man's burp and a camel groaning.
Interesting.
It's like I don't know how they came up with that combination. Someone probably just heard it and go, "That sounds like a belch."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the javelin where they engineered. This one was a little like kind of on the overtly gay side too. Like, oh, they engineered a javelin that works with my limp wristed throw. Just like, but I love when he's like running is like just like the javelin is just like flimsy, flimsy, flimsy.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course the concert scene at the end. Do 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 do. The electronic music and the violin and I I liked a lot of the carnival stuff. It's too
Mm-hmm.
bad that it's wrapped up in a problematic movie.
Yeah, because that's almost like where the plot finally started.
It really was. It was like that's what it was leading up to, and I'm glad that that's like the last half hour of the movie. So like most of the movie is the carnival scene with these
Mm-hmm.
fun and games and stuff and tournaments and contests and all of that. And then there's the speech at the end where it's Lewis and Gilbert get up there and this was I think this was mostly ad-libbed too. They just kind of came up with this on the spot and talking about, hey, we've been shunned by people, like stand up if you were a nerd when you were in school, because they're talking about to a bunch of alum, and it was kind of a cool moment.
But
So
also, I think where that scene falls apart is when you realize that, they have a bunch of black fraternity members of a historically black fraternity standing guard against the jocks. It's
yes,
like, wait a minute.
yeah, that was it really does it's like, oh, then you're going into that. it's I didn't
Like,
like
this is
that
a
either.
nice sentiment, but woof.
Yeah, and like I said, it was a cool moment wrapped in a problematic
Mm-hmm.
with a problematic scene, and that's this whole movie is like cool moments wrapped in problems.
I
And
like the character of Ogre. I thought he was funny.
yeah, he was really and actually there were several characters I liked. Like I liked Poindexter because he's got like the really thick glasses, and apparently
Mm-hmm.
they actually were really thick and he couldn't see on set. And so like he had people guiding him around when he had those on.
Oh,
So
man, poor guy.
yeah, I liked that guy. And and I liked Ogre. And even though Takashi was very stereotypical, I liked the progression of Booger and Takashi's like friendship because at first Booger was taking advantage of him, and then it just kind of became like a running joke with them, just kind of joking with each other. I think
Mm-hmm.
there was a friendship there throughout the movie, but yeah, again, wrapped in some problems. What the hell is a frush? I just, yeah, that was actually apparently ad lib too, because
Mm-hmm.
they just randomly ended up together in the gym when they were filming. That was,
Interesting.
I don't think it was written that they were going to bunk next to each other. So that's another thing I found interesting about this is how many of these scenes were ad libbed. And I'm like, that's interesting. Some of them really didn't work, but some of them did. So I don't know. It might be best to be a movie that's watch the cool clips on YouTube,
Yeah.
because I don't know if there's a lot more we need to talk about with this movie.
Yeah, I definitely would not recommend watching it. That's for sure. So, would you recommend this?
This is where it gets weird because I grew up loving this movie, and I realize you can grow and realize that like, oh, maybe what I loved as a kid still it actually isn't good. And this one is one of those where it really actually there's so many problems with it, but some of the scenes that I remember, I still enjoyed watching. I had fun revisiting this on certain parts, but then other parts I was like, oh, I wish that these parts that I really love were not wrapped up in all this ickiness.
Yeah, so it's different for me because I'd never seen this movie before until we covered it. So obviously, if it's your first time, yeah, you can skip it.
Yeah, and that's where I want to go with that is I enjoyed watching it for the nostalgic factor and some of the scenes that I remembered loving as a kid that actually still held up. But I can't with so many classic movies, I can't in good conscience recommend this if you haven't seen it. Like I said, go watch some of I'm sure you can pull up on YouTube a bunch of the scenes that I talked about that I liked. And that's part of the reason I wanted to talk about those is because go watch those scenes and you'll have seen the best parts of Revenge of the Nerds without having to sit through the unwatchable stuff.
Yeah, no kidding.
And overall, yeah, this was one I watched a lot as a kid, but it's not one that needs to be seen anyway. So I can't recommend it to anybody new that hasn't seen it before. You can
So
find better 80s comedies than this.
So now we're moving on to our segment double feature, where if we like this movie, we provide a recommendation that makes a good double feature. And if we did not like this movie, we talk about a movie to watch instead. So for my theme with it, I went like sort of fraternity comedies. And I chose Neighbors with Zac Efron and Seth Rogen, I think is a much better fraternity comedy because it's about, like a young couple with a baby, and then like a fraternity moves in next door, and over the course of them trying to sort of be part of the crazy fraternity and stuff, you find out like, yeah, these dudes do actually care about, they may be like frat bros, but they do actually care. And they do come to sort of a mutual understanding and even like a friendship towards the end of the movie. So
Yeah,
we've
I,
got
I
your
actually
party,
I
you got
found
your
this one
party
quite humorous.
shenanigans, yeah, but then also like there is a sincerity behind it as well.
Yeah. The only downside to this movie was that it's is it Judd Apatow produced or directed?
I don't think he
Because
directed it.
I think it was like, it's in the Judd Apatow school of films where there's one scene where Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne have to get high and the movie comes to a screeching halt because it's a Judd Apatow film and we have to have a scene where they get high. And in this movie, it didn't fit at all. It didn't progress anything. And it really made the like come to a screeching halt. I'm like, just cut that whole scene out. And I really enjoyed the rest of the movie. But no, I like that recommendation because I thought I was actually pleasantly surprised by that movie when I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
So my recommendation, I and I talked about it on our last episode of What You Watching. It's not going to be my recommendation. I rewatched Animal House because I was like, oh, it's another frat movie. It's a classic. It's been a while since I've watched that, and I knew there was problems with that one too. But boy, yeah, it's another like classic wrapped in problems.
Mm-hmm.
And so I changed my mind on that one. It was interesting rewatching that one. Not one I need to rewatch a lot because of its problems. But I was having trouble coming up with one. But then I thought I would recommend, and I hope this one holds up. I've only seen it once, maybe twice, but I remember laughing a lot. It came out in 2000, so I hope it doesn't have the problems of the 80s, 70s, and 80s movies. Is a movie called Accepted. And I looked, and this only has a 38% on Rotten Tomatoes, but it's got like 70 some percent with users. It's so I don't know
I
if
just
I'm
remember seeing the trailer for this movie because it was on like a DVD of some other movie I had.
yeah, and there were several parts that I watched it with my wife, and there were several parts where we really laughed at this one. It's Justin Long and then a young Jonah Hill too. Justin Long. So in Revenge of the Nerds, it's a bunch of nerds who want to get into fraternity, but they can't get in, and so they finally like get into one. But this one is Justin Long is trying to get accepted into a college, and he gets rejected by every college that he applies to, even state college. He can't even get into state college. And so, just to get his parents off his back, he comes up with a college. He makes a college on his own and just shows the letter to his parents saying, hey, I got accepted to this one. Well, then somehow a bunch of people, like, I think it got out on the internet and a bunch of people like showed up on They rented a building to just have as a facade for his parents to show him around. And then a ton of people showed up for orientation on the first day. And so they actually make a college out of it where it's like, oh yeah, we don't have teachers here. The students teach themselves. It's just, it's kind of a fun comedy. As
Was
far as
this
I
the one
remember,
with the only thing I remember from the trailer was "Ask me about my wiener."
yes, it is. Where he's got the like the hot dog costume. Ask me about
Hmm.
my wiener. No, I remember really enjoying this. I'd have to rewatch it to see how it holds up, but I'm gonna give it a recommend because I remember really liking this one. But then again, I really liked Revenge of the Nerds growing up too. So who knows?
So who knows? Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Now we
So
move
anyway,
on to our final segment. What are we gonna watch next? We got to spin the wheel of fun.
spin it.
Spin, 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 spin.
All right, let's go to. This is a story of a man in free fall. On the road to redemption, darkness lights his way. Connected, darkness lights his way. Connected with the afterlife, Uxbal is a tragic hero and father of two who, sensing the danger of death, he struggles with a tainted reality and a fate that works against him in order to forgive for love and forever. This is
What year
what
is
year
it
is it?
from?
Oh, 2010. Beautiful is spelled. I think it's Biutiful. Is that how you spell it in Spanish?
I don't know.
It's starring Javier Bardem.
Nice,
So
nice.
good actor. 2010. It's a romance slash drama, according to this. I think I've heard of this one before, just never seen it before. So
And what's it on?
this is on Prime Video and Hoopla and Canopy.
Nice.
So
All
yeah.
right, so we haven't done a Spanish language film before,
No, and I don't know if this
or
is
have we?
in Spanish language or if it's just the title is or what.
Hey,
Hey,
Javier Bardem, we like him.
we do like him, so I'll take him as a lead in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Well, in the meantime, you can find us online at Twitter. I'm AwesomeKM.
And I'm at Noah_Saturn. That is spelled Satern.
And we're on Instagram at We Don't Know What to Watch. And you can email us, we don't know what to watch at gmail.com. Like our video, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Do it. Do it now.
Oh yeah. And until then, nerds,
Nerds. Nerds.
nerds,
Nerds.
nerds,
Nerds.
nerds,
Nerds.
nerds. Bye bye.